bringing you the latest news, game updates, insights, highlights, and everything Liberty Hockey. This is Rock the Rink, where Liberty Hockey lives.
Welcome to Rock the Rink. Liberty Flames split with Niagara 1-1, obviously. That's how a split works. And losing 3-1, winning 4-3 on senior night. Night one, Grant Zell made the saves he needed to. Niagara comes into town and I don't know, I wouldn't say shock the Flames because everybody knew this was a pretty solid Purple Eagle team coming into the weekend, but I'm not sure if a lot of fans, myself included, were expecting them to be able to hold this Liberty offense to one goal against.
I think the biggest thing, too, not only, hold Liberty to one goal, but force so many turnovers.
Oh,
that was the thing that, stood out to me. I felt like they just, almost every other minute, it was an odd man rush that was created, whether forced a turnover in the neutral zone or we turned it over in the offensive zone at the blue. It was just amazing, all the odd man rushes and breakaways they were able to create. And, Hunter had 45 saves to go with Zell because Liberty eventually started picking it up as the game went on. But, you were watching that first game and you're almost like, oof, man, we could be down 3-0 right now if these had gone back. So
that's what I mentioned in the broadcast. That one that went off the cuff of Hunter's glove and in the back of the net that made it 3-1. You're kind of like, that was a backbreaker. You would not have been in the position to even be able to tie the game up if it hadn't been for some of those saves he had in the first period. He was great through 40. Yeah, that last one had a little bit of odor to it. It happens, but Niagara, give them credit. I think the fastest team I've seen in the ACHA. Man,
they're up there.
They transition super well, and they're a fun team to watch. Truthfully, as an outside observer, when you watch them, this is a team that plays with a lot of speed. They've got some big bodies, and considering that a lot of their talent, like Sanders, Belanger, are pretty young, they're a team that's also still on the rise.
Yeah, and I think you equated it last week too. You called them a poor man's Adrian. So because they hadn't won. But honestly, after this weekend, you could see it, right? And now the fact that they have more than half the team's underclassmen, you're kind of in a year or two, if they get a couple more pieces brought in with some of the recruits that they've had, they're a team that you got to think they're going to pencil themselves as one of the favorites.
And then somebody pegged it really well of not a crazy physical team, but very, very fast, very, very skilled. And to your point there too, Pat, of just all the turnovers and everything, you don't need to play the big bruising style of hockey if you could just outpace and outwork teams, right? And I think we saw that there where it's just every other line coming on the ice or every other moment, it's just oh man, there's the perfect tape-to-tape pass with the perfect opportunity, and they capitalized on opportunities later in the game because it was obviously close in game one, but still just a lot of chances that they created for themselves off of speed, skill, and just grinding it out.
Yeah, I like that part too, right? You talked about the passing. That's an area too that Liberty struggled the first night. Yeah. The passes were not as crisp as we're used to seeing.
Yeah. Was it that first, I forget when it was, when Hunter was up against that 2-on-0?
Oh, yeah.
That was wild. That was crazy. But, I think Devin Sanders, 8 shorthanded goals on the season. They just, they have these certain areas where they just kill you. Yeah. And I'm really, really excited to see what they do in the national tournament this year. I think that they're going to pull off some pretty big upsets and make a pretty deep run. But, just compare where this program was last year to where they are this year.
Yeah.
They seem like one of the quickest rising teams in the ACHA.
Yeah. Grant Zell is, if he gets on a heater at nationals, watch out. They're a team that could go a ways. I think he's a little unorthodox, and at times you're like, ooh, what's this guy doing? But if he can get in that zone for a week, you could be pulling home a national championship trophy again super quick. And then, going back to the point you made, Pat, about the poor man's Adrian, having watched both of them now, I think they're more skilled than Adrian.
Really?
I really do. Belanger is a game changer. You saw that goal.
Right.
He just, nice little drag, fire, great shot just over the pad on the stick side. That was a beauty. Sanders can roll. They're a skilled team. I just don't know. They just don't have the experience of Adrian yet. Right. That's the truth of the matter. But I do think they have more skill. I like old Connor Loft on the back end. man, he's just the reason I like him is because you don't notice him. You're not like, oh man, that guy's a stud, but he is a stud because he doesn't make mistakes, makes just simple plays. On that shorty that they had in game 1, he's the guy bringing it down the right side, just showing so much patience, and then he dishes it back to Sanders, who's wide open, boom, back in the net. Like just simple plays like that. Any coach in the ACHA would take him on their team.
Right.
Like he's a silent assassin on the back end. He's just quietly really, really good. Another thing that this team did well, again in Niagara over the weekend, is that they kept Calendike fairly quiet. Only 1 goal on the weekend. They did a tremendous job of collapsing in front of the net, getting in shooting lanes, and in all truthfulness, not a bad game for Liberty to have to play in and even get a little bit frustrated because there's going to be teams that are going to do that to you in a month's time at the national tournament.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think for Liberty, you saw the next right? They did make a lot of adjustments.
Yeah,
One
they
with
did.
the lineup changes, which I thought was good. The passing was so muhad better, right? And I think that helped. Power play efficiency went up as well. So, a lot of things, it's good that, like you just said, Liberty had that game 1 to realize the adjustments they need. And also, too, I think probably for Liberty, we talked about coming into that matchup. You had gone since the start of the year 13-1. You only had 1 loss to the number 2 team, and you probably thought after a big weekend versus Ohio at Ohio, where you beat a rival, that you were like, "Hey, we know Niagara. There's a good chance we can roll past this team." So I feel like a little of night 1 was also overlooking them too, and that's a good, humbling thing to have to let Liberty know, like, "Hey, it's not just that top 4 or 5 we've got to worry about. We got to worry about." Really a good chunk of not only the top 10, but probably that top 15 as well.
Yeah, Brett, I'm curious, were there any line combinations that you saw night 2?
Yeah.
That you were like, hey, that was pretty cool.
Let me pull that up again. Yeah, I did like I liked the line changes, honestly. And Christian Garland, who was doing the game with me, put up a lot of good points regarding that because he was just like, there's a dog on each line now. So, the top line, when it comes to the listing, right? So I don't know who you want to say your number 1 is, but Calendike, Olsen, and Finch. I liked it. Like the speed that Finch brings, but also Olsen's going to dig in the corners for you. Mm-hmm. I like that. I like Feemster with Foltz and Bartel. He'll do the work for you as well in the corners. Schwenke, Gammer, and Jackson didn't play in that one just due to the fact that I think he had a bit of an upper body injury that was annoying him a little bit.
It ended up becoming Bladen up there.
Yeah. So, and that line still did well, and you put Jackson there. I like it. I like it a lot. I think Gammer will do the dirty work, so will DJ, and then Jackson can kind of dish things out. And then you saw, it was kind of a mismatch of a 4th line that night. But overall, I kind of liked it. I don't know if they'll stick with it or not, but I did like it. I'll tell you one guy, though, that's coming on strong. Mason Smith on the back end. Still making a couple decisions here and there where I'm like, there's the forward in him. But he's got wheels. He's faster than I thought. He's a big kid. And that's a pretty good project on the back end.
Yeah.
Like in a year where you're gonna, you're always looking for a defenseman, right? If he can kind of settle some things down, work on gap control, that's one area where I think he lets the guys come in on a bit too much. Love to see him amp up the physicality a bit, but not a bad looking D.
Yeah, is he potentially next Cam Backer?
that's a great
mainly
comparison.
Throwback
because
as well.
Cam came in as a forward.
That's a
right,
really good
and then
comparison.
I remember him talking about he had to talk to his little brother because he came in as a D, and
Sean,
he had to ask like, "Hey, I need some help because I've never played D before." Right, and then eventually he becomes one of the best 2-way defensemen in the country.
Yeah,
right. So
that's a fun.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past him. Like he skates well, heavy shot. I could see it. I could see it. It's worth if he is in the mindset of like, okay, here's my points to you, okay, Mason, for why back end's good. You get a lot more ice time. Like you're just if you prove yourself in your top 4, you're getting out there almost every other shift. Why not? And then you get to see the ice from the back end, a lot more time and space to work with in points. Like I could see him turn it into a pretty nice looking offensive defenseman. Right. Yeah, or 2-way if you want to go that route.
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
he can play D. So yeah, I kind of like it back there. What did you guys think when you saw like line shuffle? Any thoughts?
What I like about this team is like right now we're coming into our own of every single person is working hard, grinding, and they have that next man up mentality. So while I enjoy consistency and some of the reasons for line shifts, where just body's getting a little banged up, it doesn't really affect me or bother me. Kind of at the end of the day, it doesn't necessarily fire me up either, because on the backside, I know some of the reasons why things are getting changed around. If that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I like it and hate it at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they know their national lineup. I think they have an idea of because they have in the second game, Barcelona didn't play, and also Cam Ottenbright. I almost said Backer again, but right, and
Holm didn't play,
right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So and I believe that they know their national, because I think it'll be Bartel, Cam, and Fultz, right? I think that line will come back together. But I also think it's good because last year, Liberty went into nationals with the shorter lineup, and then they lost some guys as the game went on, right? Mm-hmm. So you need to have guys in those roles ready so they can have the experience and be able to go when it comes time in case, because it happens, right? Injuries happen. Mm-hmm. Just sometimes, a team is like, well, our season's over. Let's try to end theirs, and rough stuff starts happening too. So, and someone's got to nope, can't let this happen, and might get suspended. So, you've got to have guys ready to be prepared for that shuffle. So, you don't mind it in game 2. And honestly, you wouldn't, I know I'm getting a little head buzz, but you wouldn't mind it again this weekend too versus Ohio.
Yeah. I think, looking at it now, you're right. I'd put Cam back there with that line of Fultz and Bartel. They were wheeling with him. I'd keep Schwenke, Gammer, and Barcelona together. I'd keep Finch up top. And then that fourth line, if you will, I'd have Feemster, Bladen, Albers, and then Smith would be my swing man. He'd be my extra skater because you'll have Bogenholm back. And if you need a shift, like a spark of energy here and there, throw him in.
Right.
That's what I
go
with.
I like that too.
Anyways,
all right.
Fun times. It's hard to believe we're long. Feels like a long ways to go until they get to national time, even though there's only one game left. Ohio coming into town this weekend. This is what do you do in a game like this? I know it's kind of like national prep, and you want to keep the motor going and warmed up. But at the same time, you also don't want to get hurt or suspended.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think personally, this is this is a game to obviously, get everyone's feet wet, get moving, and still so you get that game feel. But also too, this is a time to test some things out. Right?
Okay.
I think game 2, you change it up. Why not change it up again? Just to see, because you never know. And then also too, we all know Hunter's the guy, right? Potentially give another goalie some reps.
I would not let Hunter see the ice this weekend.
Because I think you need to have an idea of in case something happens or something needs to change, and also prepare for next year, right? You said it last on the broadcast. Flames faithful don't realize what they have in Hunter, and they're going to miss him a lot next year. So this is an opportunity now to see, all right, well, we got 2 very good young goaltenders in Glassford and Bernstein who have been patient, bought some time.
Yeah.
Let's see how they do versus a team that a lot of people think could make a run themselves.
Right. I agree.
Yeah. I'll keep silent. I don't want to give an opinion. I will.
I
will support. I will support the coaches.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you this though.
Yeah.
And this isn't make you put a guy in the spot. Yeah. Would you play Hunter this weekend?
So you really have to discuss things with goalies, right? Just because they are a unique and a different position.
Yes, for sure.
So if you have to take their thoughts into consideration, because even if you don't agree with it, if you're on a different page than your goalie, it's just not going to work.
That's true.
Right? So if in Hunter's mind, he's like, no, I want the rest. I don't want to bang up my body. I don't want to risk anything. And, that's what he thinks. You have to go with that. On the other side, if he's like, no, I want to do this. I want to do this. It's just such a unique and important position. You really have to have that good conversation and both be on the same page.
The one thing, I agree with you. You do need to be on the same page. The one thing I worry about is and I'm not saying Ohio's going to do this, but what keeps a guy in a game like this that doesn't matter? Just a slash to the ankle, Ohio probably figures we're going to see, perhaps we'll see Liberty. There's a chance that would happen. You could do some damage in this last game.
And the thing there is like they could be thinking the same thing, right? Like
Yeah.
if you have two people, if we were playing a top 30 team that wasn't making the nationals, yeah, these are the real conversations to have. But hopefully, and I was discussing this with the player too, when you play a team that knows they're not in it anymore, like yeah, the dirty stuff comes, but
Right.
it's kind of that one thing of like, hey, I have a nuke, you have a nuke, let's just kind of let's hang out here, right? 'Cause they could both be thinking the
Right.
exact same thing, because it doesn't take much, and like I hope no one gets ideas of like knock someone's glove off and now all of a sudden we're fighting and now that guy's suspended and okay,
Right.
perfect, right?
Yeah.
It's you can do that, but again, if you're both standing across each other in sort of the Mexican standoff of like, hey, I don't want this to happen. You don't want that to happen. I don't. It hopefully will keep things a little, not as spicy as some other games.
Yeah, it's kind of like football where, like, the week before playoffs, resting your starters.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
pros and cons to both sides, and you just got to kind of roll with one of them.
Right. Yeah. It'd be interesting to see what happens. I don't know. We get word, Pat, you need to tweet that out. Sources saying that Hunter Vrostic will start this weekend. We'll wait and see. Hopefully, Liberty though, getting healthier. I don't know. Do you guys? Can you speak to Bogenholm and Versalono? Is that something to worry about long term, or is this just like, okay, we're just being precautionary?
Nothing that I'm worried about.
Okay.
Yeah. I would say the same. I think Liberty will be not 100% healthy, but they will have a healthier lineup than we've seen the last couple of weekends.
Okay.
Win nationals, and I believe they'll be able to dress whoever they need to dress at
nationals
by game 1 of nationals.
I'd say we're in a better place right now than we've been in years past.
Oh, that's
for
good.
me. Yeah.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
Good to hear.
All,
All right.
all things trending up.
Yes.
Ohio again coming in this weekend on Saturday. 1-game series this weekend. That game at 5:30, correct? It got changed from 7 o'clock to 5:30. So make sure you're there on time and not an hour and a half late for the game. All right, let's move our attention now to men's Division II. They clinched their auto bid to nationals, so we don't really get to discuss, hey, do we think it's better for them to go to regionals or not? They're going to natties. Good for them. They get ranked number 3 in the country and the regular season 19-9-1. They're second in the Southeast. Crazy to think you got 2 of the top 3 teams in the nation coming out of the Southeast. That's wild. So great stuff all around. 5th consecutive time Liberty has qualified for nationals, 3rd consecutive auto bid. So lots of good stuff that this program has been able to accomplish this year with an overall pretty young team. They've done a lot. We know for sure that Lindenwood is in their pool. Liberty is the number 2 team. And so you're probably thinking, I don't know if it's a good thing or not that we got the auto bid when you see that you have Lindenwood in your pool. But still, overall, though, a good thing for LU.
I agree. And for me, like we always go back on the regionals versus nationals type of discussion. Now that the door's kind of closed of going to nationals, I've said it before of that's what I would want as a coach. That's what I would want as a player, where you don't have to go risk the body at all. You don't have to go and risk not making it in. You know what's going to happen. Now it's really up to the coaches and it's up to the players to have competition, have intensity so that they don't come out flat game 1 after a couple weeks off.
Yeah, and you ended the year on a good note. And I also think with Lindenwood being in your pool, I mean, you're going to have to face someone like that soon, like one way or another. They've had some really good games against Lindenwood this season. So, I mean, I think those games will be epic.
Well, as we continue our conversation about men's Division II, we are joined now by their head coach, Ben Hughes. Ben, great to see you.
Great to see you guys.
Yes.
I'm honored to be here.
It's been a while.
You know, I didn't want to say it, but you did. So I'm glad you went right after.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be like, what's it going to take? The Jags winning the Super Bowl or something to get on this? Like,
Yeah, that'd be we'd still be waiting a while, unfortunately, for that. That's right.
as long as they stay here.
Yeah.
As long as they stay in Jacksonville, it's a win.
That's true. That's true. Before we get into like the nitty-gritty details of your season and whatnot, how long have you and Christian been together, like the dynamic duo now?
Love that guy. 6 years.
6 years. Are you
Yep,
guys kind of
7
like an
years.
old married couple, would you say? Like, do you bicker?
Surprisingly not.
No? Okay.
Not really.
All right.
No, and if we do, it's a rare thing.
Gotcha.
I don't know if maybe once. I don't even remember if we ever have.
Yeah.
You'd have to ask him because he'd probably remember.
Might have an opinion.
He'll probably have an opinion,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's great. I would say it's like a marriage where my strengths, his weaknesses, his strengths, my weaknesses. I think we make a really good team.
That's awesome. Well, obviously you guys have had a lot of success. You just came out number 3 in the nation in terms of like the complete big picture of the rankings. But when you look at it, guys are going to nationals. You don't have to worry about regional action, which we'll get to in a second. But I'm kind of curious about the whole setup. Like you're taking Lindenwood's in your pod, right? Like isn't that kind of weird to be like 2 top 3 teams in the nation in the same pod?
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that one up too. No, we're Gary Gardner, head coach of Lindenwood too, and we were kind of texting back and forth like, hey, let's make sure that third game matters, right? But that's not to get too far ahead because I think we would own up to last year's I don't want to say mistake, but man, it's one game at a time, and we got to play Lindenwood for sure, but you're gonna have to play a team like a Florida, or you're gonna have to play a top team at some point. So might as well get right after it too and build that momentum. So I'd say it's easy to be mad about that. I could probably even go into further detail that I have submitted proposals for that to change too.
Okay.
And I did meet that deadline for our Division II league. Personally, I feel like it should probably be a national ranking based off of it.
Yeah.
Kind of like every region is a 1 seed type of deal. But regardless, it is what it is, and we're excited about it.
Good. Now, when we're looking at the team, I'm a big personnel type of guy. This semester, we added a guy. What is it like having 2 Padgetts on the team? Explain to the people at home. What is that?
Getting their touches in. That's their nickname is. I don't know where it came from, but Touchy. So we got Touchy and Baby Touchy.
All right. Yeah, that's a little something for the people.
Yeah, I think we could go different routes, but I think I'll just give them the benefit of the doubt, saying that I think it's because they have really good touch with the puck. Soft hands, silky mitts. So we'll go that direction. And they're both coming from really good programs. Culver Academy. It's a top program in the country for AAA hockey. So they both did well there, both played a good level of junior hockey. So they help with puck movement, skill, scoring goals. Like they have that ability to move the needle in that regards. And so it's great. I think we're excited. I think Mark was waiting for a little bit of an ask of if they're going to put them together or not. Says, hey, maybe. And we did put them together, I think, for a game or two, and we were like, hey, just so you know, we put you together because we wanted to, not because you asked. Gotta have the one-upper as the coach, but it's great. And the Lord has led Jacob here. He had a rough first semester in junior hockey, and just so not to speak to his life, but we're thrilled that he's here at Liberty.
Awesome. Love to hear the good touch runs in the family. Now another player on the team. I was singing his praises after prospect camp. And then I think he's had a pretty stellar start in freshman season here. Talk about my boy Higgy. Talk about Higgins there for a moment, because I've heard he could be quite the character off ice, not only to match his on-ice talent.
Aaron's the man. He leads our team freshman in points too. And I'd say particularly this last weekend is that we had 2 weekends ago to end our regular season in Northeast. So we had at Keene, at UMass, at Northeastern. So those are all 3 different locations, 3 top teams, 3 days in a row. And in our opinion, as a coaching staff, he was our best player.
Awesome.
And so that's the hardest weekend that you have, and he has the ability to score goals. He's got a heavy shot, but he can protect the puck really well and compete really hard. And he somehow fights through like 3 wall checks in a row. It's like, how does he still have the puck? But he's just a tank. You probably should sit next to him and see what he is doing, like in the weight room wise, like, get him back on that. He likes to go buys and tries pretty hard. I think
shoulder injuries.
Yeah, I think he wants to. I think he's really getting into the weightlifting though. But might have to get your wisdom with on that, Aaron. If you're listening, we'll get Coach Chris Kerr to help you out a little bit. But
it's good.
Whatever he's doing right now, though, it's working.
Yeah.
So it's working for him, and he's not losing foot speed. He's a good skater too. So he had a lot of success. He's coming from a good level of hockey. So he played at it's called SPA, so Seacoast Performance Academy. That's a top program in the country. He was, I think, the runner-up to. Forgive me for the missing the name, but for the state player of the year for Maine.
Wow.
So he was a runner-up for that, and so he's kind of like we're saying touches like. Scoring is hard to teach.
Yeah.
We can build up the skill or the endurance or the competitiveness, things like that, but it's tough to teach guys how to score goals, and he has that touch to score goals.
Awesome.
So how can we continue to build up that as a player and as a young man, too? And he's a true freshman.
Yeah. It's crazy, right? That's what I was sharing, and I just called it, right? My boy Higgy.
That's right.
I said almost a year ago. I was like, just wait. This guy's coming. Now, talking more hockey specific, got to walk by practice today, and you and I have discussed this, but just kind of talk about it a little bit of you break the ice in thirds, you're hammering skill stations. Just kind of talk about your coaching evolution, year one with you and Coach Garland to now. It seems that you're kind of following the trend and the shift to having just a big focus on applying skills and using them during practice for executing during games. Just kind of go into that and how it kind of plays into your overall preparation as we head towards nationals.
Yeah, thanks. Huge, I'd say, evolution for us too. And sometimes, the coaches, we need to get better as well and evolve and learn trends or just, study the game more and figure out different things. But so do the players. And so I think a lot of the pressure that coaches are feeling to not do skill work is because sometimes it's hard for the players to even buy in too. So what we like to do is for 10 minutes, just 10 minutes for practice, we have 3 different zones. So we practice 3 times a week. And so what we'll do is we'll have players in 3 different areas. For that 10 minutes, they do that one station for that one day.
Love it.
So we're not going 30 minutes or an hour, or we're just 10 minutes for that one. Then the next day, 10 minutes on the next one. Then Thursday, 10 minutes on that third one. And that way everyone's gotten 10 minutes in, but they've had 30 minutes of skill work, 3 different things that they're working on. So I think for us, it helps us break down something more specific in their game, whether it's quick release, literally anything. We could say for an hour talking about that. But if we're constantly just doing flow drills, are we getting better at executing that 2-on-1 flow drill? Or are we just going through the motions in that 2-on-1 flow drill, right? So all things that you and I agree with on that as well too. So I'm preaching to the choir on that. But I think it just allows the guys just a chance to get better at something very specific.
And really, I'm asking the question more so as Rhett's kids get older and the old dinosaur gets back on the ice over there. Just want to make sure he's playing for 2024 hockey.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you got the old torpedo, the old torpedo in the back pocket,
still
man.
Lives in infamy.
And a big storyline with your team this year has been being without your captain for a good amount of the season. Now that he's back and he's on the ice again and he's around the guys, how much of an impact has that had for your team?
Josh Harrell's the heart and soul of the team, and all be all on that one. So I think it's cool for us to see what we were able to do and what the team was able to accomplish without him. But I mean, there's a big air quotes without him because he was there every single day, whether it's in the weight room, on the bench at practice, in the locker room or during games, taking stats and giving us insight or feedback too on what to be aware of or look for. So he's been a huge part of the team all year, regardless, leading small groups, being a spiritual leader too. It's just when he gets to be on the ice, now he gets to go, full out, and he's finishing checks. So our identity as a team, I would say, is, hey, let's be hard to play against. Let's finish our checks. Let's compete. Let's back check through the middle. Let's be airtight. And that's his game to a T. And then in the midst of all of it, then creativity can happen. Or then an opportunity or a turnover or a chance happens, and maybe we can take advantage of it. But being airtight, that's his game. He's a grinder as well, too. And he truly has a huge heart for the Lord, a huge heart for every single person on the team. So I can't say enough great things about Josh Harrell.
Have you found that time off the ice made him better in any regard, from a mental standpoint of the game, just getting to observe things for most of the year?
Definitely. He'd even attest to that. I'd say in recent years, we've talked about this, him and I, pretty openly with other people too. What's the old saying, what's your problem? I just care too much, right? What's your biggest flaw? I care too much, right? You could say, that's kind of how Josh was as well too, and it's a big burden to be a captain, especially when you have such a soft heart for everybody, is that your heart is burdened for everybody that much more. Whether there's a mistake or guys aren't going in the same direction, it affects you. And so it affects him. And I think over the last little bit, last year I'd say it allowed him to be affected negatively, and maybe that trickled into his play a little bit also. Versus I feel like being out of it and not having control, he had to totally let go and let other people do their thing too, and let the identity of the team be created and established, and then there's a steroid injection of him once that was made. It's almost once the team was formed around how he could best fit it and help serve it, it was ready to go for it. Honestly, it was God's perfect timing. It's been really cool to see that growth in him too.
And I'd love to hear that good word of when he joined the men's D1 team in Las Vegas when we went out there. I texted the team. I said, hey, let me know what each room needs. Everyone needs their own individual things, and it wasn't like we were near any convenience store. And his room requested a couple tubes of chapstick. So I was like, I don't know how tough these guys are, but I'm glad to hear, it's just a one-off type of thing.
Yeah.
Huge one-off. But speaking of, I was on that trip too, and I never get chapped lips. Yeah. I don't use chapstick.
It's the dry hair, man. The desert's different.
Dying.
Yeah. I honestly, it was probably they allow indoor smoking in Nevada. Yeah, that'll
all those casinos.
Yeah, that'll melt your skin off.
You just get cherry or vanilla.
I think I went with just a
coconut.
Generic. Yeah,
generic coconut.
I'm not too sure.
I'm a big coconut. Anything coconut for you viewers or anyone out there.
All right.
Anything coconut.
Yeah.
Coach Hughes likes.
Everyone on that trip out to Vegas was sick. And,
I remember that.
And Sharon was there, so she kept sending me for essential oils and homeopathic medicine. So
some Celtic salt.
Yeah, it's hard for me to remember what was happening.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, that was an awesome trip. Even, for D1, of course, and for our alumni too, but think about it. We had 3 men's Division II players.
Oh, and they showed up.
Huge.
Showed up huge.
Play in an NCAA Division I game.
Mm-hmm.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Really neat.
And they made a difference. They were playing.
Huge difference, especially in the sweep against UNLV. There's multiple, highlight reels I have in my head of Harrell crashing super hard on a forecheck, creating chaos behind the net, getting a turnover. Just those hustle plays and kind of that grind, trying too hard mentality, as you just spoke of.
Yeah, and that's ultimately to go back to full circle on your question about skill. We want to help guys develop and get better.
Yes.
At the end of the day, and I view that's my primary role as a coach, especially with Division II, is how can we help people get better? How can we help players get better? And if your goal is to make Division I, we want that to be our goal as well for you too. We don't want to hold you back, and we want to get you there and ready. Our experience, I think, merits knowing what it takes to get there and to help you get there as well too as a player. And that's a part of whether that's the recruitment process or here as a player. If that's your goal, great. We want to help you get there. And if it's because you want to be on Division II, then let's be the best we can be.
Love it.
All right, I've got a question, but it's going to come after a bit of not a rant, but I'm going to just say something. You don't have to comment on this. This is more my opinion, okay? So being top 3 in Division II, more than likely you guys, in my mind, would probably easily be top 20 ACHA Division I, just the way that the leagues work. And I think that could be – I think you could argue that point pretty well. A lot of times, though, your players get hidden because you have a Division 1 team, right? But talk to me about like you guys have had like you've been gifted in the goaltending area. You had Partridge, Dakota Sihanyuk, got it right, and then and now you have Scon. Like talk about Scon, what kind of goalie he is, and I think again you guys have been blessed with one of the better goaltenders at the Division 2 level. And truthfully, when you put it like kind of the whole reason I was bringing up top 20. In some ways, at the ACHA level, you have one of the top goaltenders. He could be playing D1 hockey easily some other school.
Yeah, I fully believe that, and I'll address that first. I think that is, especially in the recruitment process, why it's so important and why we want guys that just want to be at Liberty for being at Liberty and to be a part of training champions for Christ, first and foremost. And I think that's why you can see, Division 2 can sometimes be a little bit different because, not to say other guys don't want to be here for the right reasons, but it's tough to be on a team where you get overlooked or you don't get to be the team or the shining ticket there. It's a little bit of, it hurts the pride a little bit, but it also makes you like, so like, hey, guys on the Division 1, would you be here if you weren't on the Division 1 team? Right? That's a honest question.
Right.
For everybody to consider. But I think the same thing could be true with, man, as soon as you're not on the power play, do you want to be here? As soon as you're not on the PK, do you want to be here? As soon as you're not getting 20 minutes of ice time, do you want to be here? So we try to be very transparent with that. All of us, Division 1 staff, Division 2, Division 3, about getting the right guys here. So that's first and foremost, and I think being able to get guys like that to stay and be here. Lane is our MVP. Lane is the guy who has been just steady for so long. And I think back to an opportunity, it was, two, maybe 3 years ago, I guess now he's a junior, where he went into one weekend against Lindenwood because Dakota went down and was hurt. And so here we're like, okay, I mean, we'll shoot or shoot. We'll see what happens,
Time to find out.
And I'm pretty sure it was the outdoor game when we played him outdoor there. And we won that 4-1, 4-2, something like that. And so we're like, all right, I think he's got it.
Yeah.
I think he's ready to go. And I think we were blessed, like you said, to have, listen out those names. We've always had good goalies, which is partly luck, partly thank you, Lord.
Yeah.
But I talk about, we got a guy now who's awesome, and CJ Selke backing up Lane right now too, and that he's super athletic, super high character, and wants to show up and work every single day. And I've connected him and Adam together because I've kind of said to, hey, just FYI, before Adam Partridge was the league MVP or made the ACHA D2 Team USA starting goalie. He got all these accolades. He played one game his freshman year against Stevenson. And I mean, in all due respect, but they were, a pretty weak team that year.
They were.
And so that was the one game that he got.
Yeah.
And it was, you couldn't find a guy who wanted to just get better more than Adam too. And I think I see that in CJ too. So hopefully that's a little bit of a recipe for success for us, is we get lucky with a couple recruits and we work to develop within as well.
A lot of that can be said. It's almost like the American football system, collegiate football, in the sense that you get a quarterback comes in. How often do they start right away? No, you're looking junior year, right? So you get to take, command under center. And a lot of times it should be that way for goaltenders too. So that's good stuff.
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
When you look at nationals coming up right around the corner, it's hard to believe it's coming this close. But you go back to last year, and I think in a lot of ways you could say it was a bit of a disappointing result. Do you feel like, how far has your team come in 12 months' time? And also, do they have a chip on their shoulder? Is this a group that you feel like it's hungry, ready to go? They know how challenging it is now to play those round-robin games and move on to the Final Four?
Yeah, there's a lot of answers in that one. I think for us, it definitely was coming up short for sure. I'll connect that with our original of being in the same pool as Lindenwood.
Yeah.
So last year, in our minds, that's the pool. When you look at how you're stacking up against other teams or this or that. Oh, we got the West, we got this, we got that region there and that seed. That's the best pool in our mind, and all due respect to any other program that you, being honest, would have wanted for ourselves.
Yep.
Right. But that's the outcome.
Yeah.
Right. Consequently, this year, almost the opposite, right? Probably the pull we didn't want, but hey, the opposite can now happen as well too.
That's true.
Guys are definitely super hungry. I'd say I equated this year's team a little bit to the year we lost, and you remember this, but when we lost the regionals here, my second year coaching, but lost the regionals to NC State.
Oh yes.
Here at Liberty. We had a really good team that year.
Yeah.
I think we were third in the region, but like probably fifth in the country. I mean, we had a really good team still. So that next year, I didn't do almost like the team was possessed. Right? It's like, all right, we're like day one tryouts. Everyone like, nope, we're on this. Like we're ready to go.
Yeah.
Like we know what we want, and we're better.
Yeah.
I'd equate that team and that, if I'm not mistaken, too. It's because 7 years, hard to remember everything.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's the year that nationals were canceled to Dallas, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were number 1 in the region, and we were, I think, 2 or 3 in the country.
Right.
Behind, I think, probably Mary or Florida or one of those teams, too. So I'd compare that team to this team in terms of we've been bitter for a while.
Gotcha.
And it hasn't settled very well.
Right.
So yes, to answer your question.
We're raring to go. Well, we can't wait. It's gonna be a lot of fun to watch your group out in St. Louis. Ben, always good talking to you. Thanks for coming on, and we won't wait for the Jags to win the Super Bowl. We'll get you back before then.
No, let's go. Appreciate you guys having me. It's always fun.
All right, turning our attention now to Lady Flames Division I. Close out the season with a sweep over the Warriors, winning 2-0 and 4-1. Lots of numbers there going around for the ladies. 3 goals and an apple for Beauchamp. Is it Beauchamp or Beauchamp? There's a story that goes around where somebody got corrected like mid-game about the name, and now I'm always nervous when I say it. It's Beauchamp.
I have no clue.
It's Beauchamp. We're
Yeah,
going Beauchamp.
I told
sure it
you.
is.
I know first names, and that's
Because I'm
it.
thinking of like, okay, what would a student broadcaster say?
They would say
Beauchamp.
Beauchamp. I
Yeah.
would definitely say that.
So it's Beauchamp. Okay, that was the whole. I got confused. 3 goals and an apple for her. Fussy, goal and assist. Glover, 2 assists. Adamek and a goal. Keith, 22 out of 23. And then 17 out of 18. She's settling in nicely. Now they prepare to host the playoffs coming up this weekend. So still lots of hockey to be played. Let's kind of go through the games here. On Thursday, 11:30, you got number 5 Maryville versus number 7 McKendree. Then you have number 4 Minot versus number 11 Jamestown. Liberty, who somehow has managed to become number 1 again. We'll talk about that in a sec. Versus 15 Lindenwood. And then number 2 Midland versus number 13 Minnesota.
Yeah, I think it's a good tournament, right? Like, obviously, on your
Basically
home ice.
national, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
National
you
tournament.
really look at it. Like, I mean, the only team 2 teams, Lindenwood and Minnesota, they're not in the national field right now. But Minnesota somehow pulls some upset sauce, right? They get in.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be a big
Wouldn't that be
upset.
wild?
Right?
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, Liberty gets a chance to get that tournament field. The girls get that chance to get that tournament field too. I mean, I think also too, it's kind of crazy that Minot State is number 4 in the country after the start of the year they had.
Yeah.
Like when
They were rough.
Yeah, at one point we were thinking, are they going to make nationals? And again, Liberty will be on their home ice. Hopefully the Dondi will be there. That's
right.
Oh.
Right? We've seen it happen already. Right?
Have they hosted is this the first time we've
Yes.
hosted
Yeah.
this type of thing?
Yeah.
Man, I mean, that's just such a treat. This is so cool to just like go over there and watch all these games. But also, it's Seafall weekend. Like, oh my gosh, campus is going to be so busy.
And we're going to look over. Annie's over there with like some popcorn.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Well, like, I'm hearing all these names. I'm like, wait, that's a good game. That's a
Yeah.
good game.
Yeah, especially Friday, those semifinal games will be really good. That's going to be some good hockey, right? Like
That is true.
you expect. And then the championship right before the men play on Saturday at 2:30. That, like, I mean, if the chips fall the way people think and predict, like maybe Liberty versus Midland, that could be a preview of the national championship game.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's a very good point. What do you think of Midland versus Liberty, that game?
I feel like it would be. But at the way Minot's been playing, you never know. Like, they could pull an upset. Also, too, like, Rhett has been on the Maryville train for a while, like, saying they've been building. And, like, honestly, this could be a chance for them to just play a tight game, simple game, right? Like, I mean, I remember talking to Coach Forth earlier in the week, and he was like, I mean, honestly, you saw last year, right? Like, Midland won the conference, but then they lose in the semifinals to Minot State, 1-0. Right? He's like, that's how women's hockey goes, right? Like, a goalie gets hot and somehow stands on her head, and then it becomes a 1-0 game. We saw that also, too, with the men in the national championship game, right? It ended up being a 1-0 game, even though Adrian outshot Minot. So, like, I mean, you never know, right? Like, you could see a big upset happening this weekend, and then, who knows?
Quick side tangent here. We call the girls here the Lady Flames. What would you call Jamestown? The Lady Jimmies? Or the Jimmy Ladies?
That's
I don't know.
If you're on the call there, Rhett, what are you going with?
I'm probably just going Jimmy's.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know.
Unless someone has told you otherwise.
Yeah. It's funny. There's some schools that are very serious about this. Tennessee.
Yeah.
If you play them, they're like, their SID comes to you and he's like, it is the Lady Vols. It is not the Volunteers. It is the Lady Vols.
Oh,
That's
wow.
all you get to call them. It's like they're very kind of like, this is a serious thing.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay. But it's
all about
funny.
branding.
Am I crazy? With Louisiana Tech, I think we played them in basketball, and the ladies were the Lady Texters, but then the guys were the Bulldogs. It was really
The
weird.
Lady Texters?
Yes, they were calling them the Lady Texters.
Are they like the Raging Cajuns?
I don't know.
I don't know. They usually, at the NCAA level, which, I might as well throw my pitch. I do think Liberty Club Sports has gotten to the point now where I think there could be a GA position for a sports information director that basically creates game notes for various.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, right? It would be huge.
Be
but
sick.
a lot of times you'll get, the information will come in the game notes. This team is preferred to call, don't call us La Tech, call us LA Tech, or call us the Bulldogs, not just the Dogs. They have this section there, but I've never heard the textures one.
I might be making that up in my head, but I'm pretty positive because, I remember calling them the Lady Tech. They're the coach called them the Lady Texters.
That's weird.
Yeah, it was.
I don't know. It's also, who is it? Central Arkansas. Their men were called the Bears. The women were called Sugar Bears. Yeah. You gotta say it with a voice too. They are the Central Arkansas Sugar Bears, but the guys don't want to be called that, so they're just the Bears. But the women you can call Sugar Bears. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, fun stuff, right? So
It's Arkansas. Hey, don't call us the Razorbacks. Call us just the Backs.
No, this
All right.
Yeah. Anyways,
We'll do what we got to do there. And
Well,
to highlight the ladies real quick, when we take the ice with Keith in net there, what a confidence for the team, for everybody moving forward. That girl's been playing lights out, just working so hard, and to come away with a 1-goal game out of 2 there, getting the shutout in game 1 and letting in 1, it's awesome. And then really wanted to highlight too Brooklyn.
Hat trick.
We're not going to go for the last name there, but when we look at this women's team, they're so good.
Yeah.
It is what it is, right? Loaded with talent. And to speak about this time last year, Brooklyn was playing more fourth line minutes. Kind of is what it is. But this young lady had the right conversations, had the right motivation from people that have kind of come before her of battling up in the lineup, had herself an incredible summer, and now she's coming out as a major impact player for us.
That's great.
Off ice, absolutely grinding. She's running the fastest she's ever run before, as we're measuring on the 1080. So everything's just kind of peaking, and just she has what so many people can't have, and that's just she's just tall. She's got length, right? She's really starting to develop strength and use those natural gifts. She took a face off at center ice, spun around the girl, puck protected all the way in, crossing the blue line. Her pass to Priscilla, right on the doorstep for a goal, getting in front. To go from not playing a ton of minutes in the postseason last year to being on a power play unit, right? You don't see that very often, especially on such a deep, talented team like we have. But year after year, we have, I'm just going to call them stories of girls like that. So it's such a huge credit to who we're recruiting, such a huge credit to our on-ice coaches, and you just never know what you're going to get here. But she's having a phenomenal year. Just wanted to definitely give a little highlight there, because hard work will always pay off.
Yeah, and that line of Brooklyn and then Brielle and
Priscilla.
Yeah. I think they had 5 of the team's 6 goals on the weekend. So obviously Brooklyn was doing good things, but you got to give a little hat tip to the other 2 girls on that line. And then you mentioned Alex Keith. I mean, I think that shutout in game 1 was her 5th of the season.
Crazy,
and I mean, Amanda's on the doorstep of coming back, but if you're Alex Keith going into next season, I mean, what a huge confidence boost for her and for the whole team, knowing, hey, like we know that we have this young player who's going to step up in the big moments.
Yeah. All right, health tip time. I feel like we should have like a video here of some broccoli boiling.
Oh, I don't know about that. Right, I'm starting to develop into a more quality meats guy, but that's a tale for another time. So just because of my absence on a few of these, we've kind of gotten backed up. But a few weeks ago,
Broccoli's good for that.
Yeah. There we go. So a few weeks ago, around this time, I typically give this speech to the teams, and that is the food you are starting to eat now is what your body will be made of come nationals time. So you could give this a quick, easy Google, and you could see how quickly our cells in our body turn over or reproduce, right? So we won't go into too much of the nitty-gritty, but just for example, there's certain cells in our body that will die and get rebuilt every 2 weeks, every 21 days, every 3 weeks, something like that. So what I say is if you eat a donut right now, basically you could think of the bones in your pinky and your ring finger are going to be made of the nutrients from a donut. Versus if you have some quality vegetables, meats, and carbs mixed in there, that is what will be making up the structure of your pinky and your ring finger. So it's a little weird kind of a concept to think about, but as you start to look down the line in your schedule, about a month out, that's when you really want to start kind of clean things up. Because after 1 or 2 days of healthy eating, yes, you feel better, but you're not going to start to really see all those positive benefits and changes because it does take time for your cells to die off that you've been fueling poorly and for the new ones to kind of grow back that have been fueled well and properly. So to really get the most bang for your buck nutritionally, about a month out from the big event, in our case nationals, you want to really start to dial it in. So very much so limit your processed food, very much so limit your simple sugars outside of your practice and your game times, and then really just kind of watch what you're drinking. Try to shoot for all water unless you're consuming some protein or sports performance drinks, again, around your practice or your game times.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I remember you touched on this a bit last year. So always fascinating to think about how your body essentially regenerates.
Yeah, exactly. And what you're putting in now is what you're going to be using to fuel yourself later.
It's crazy. You are what you eat, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, exactly. 100%.
All right, before we move on here, Men's Division 3, really quick, I wanted to give Annie and Pat a second. We talked a little bit about the 49ers last week, firing their DC.
Yes.
Yes. Are you, a lot of people not too pleased with this move?
I don't think, I'll be honest, we talked after saying, and I was like, I almost would have fired Shanahan. More so because he hasn't gotten it done.
Right.
He's been to 3 big games in less than 10 years. And you can't get it done. Right. So, I think the fact that they fired their DC, I think, is kind of crazy after a season because you have to remember, you're without Hufanga, who's an all-pro safety, and then you're without Greenlaw, right? He only played the first drive. Yeah. And that was such a big difference without him, right? So I think I don't put the Super Bowl loss on him,
right?
I think it's a bad move on their part.
I look at it as more of there was this season-long tension. There was the whole thing of Wilkes being in the booth. They didn't like that he was in the booth. They wanted him to come down to the field. I just feel like he didn't gel. And his whole scheme didn't gel as well with the team this year. I have to think that if they're going to get rid of him after one season, that Fred Warner had a big say in this. Your vet guys on the defense were, if they loved him and they were all about him, I don't see why you would fire him. I mean, that's horrible for team culture. So honestly, I wasn't the biggest fan of Steve Wilkes. I'm not that upset about it. I just think that the fact that it came right after the Super Bowl, people are obviously going to be like, oh, they're making him the scapegoat. Kyle Shanahan's trying to get him out the door and take all the blame off of him.
Right.
I look at it as more of a season-long thing. I'm personally kind of glad that he's gone, and I hope that we make the right hire.
Bill Belichick for DC?
I mean,
Man, no way. There's no way he would do that.
he wouldn't, but like, man, that would
be wild.
That'd be, man. My brain would blow
imagine?
up.
Yeah.
Like
You never know.
Oh my
Crazier
gosh.
things have
Yeah,
happened.
there's no way. I mean,
Shanahan and Belichick have any kind of connection? I can't think so.
I don't think
he
so.
only
I could
he
see,
lost
work
to
together
them
on
in
that
the
but I
Super
could
Bowl.
see.
Oh,
Speaking of former head coaches that don't have a job, I could see Mike Vrabel
That's true.
coming in.
Yeah.
I saw Brandon Staley. I'm not really the biggest fan of that.
No, I'm not a
Yeah,
big fan. Like
yeah.
he's more of an offensive guy too.
Yeah,
Like
the-
so.
I just saw that they're thinking about bringing him in, and I don't really like that. But,
All right. We'll keep tabs on this.
Yeah.
Rock the Rink podcast part.
Yeah.
All right, here, men's division 3. We'll wrap this up here pretty quick. Sweeping the Mountaineers, winning 8-2, 5-3 on senior weekend. Granzow, 3 goals, 5 assists. Lots of big numbers throughout it. Our boy Williams, he reached
Mikey.
out to me on old Facebook like, I'm ready to come on the show. So
I bet.
we need to get him on here.
Right, yeah,
we
after
got a couple.
5-point weekend.
We've had some requests here. That's good.
Oh yeah,
People want to get on Rock
they're
the Rink.
building up,
Coming
so.
up.
Yeah, we need to do it. So they moved to 13-5 now on the year, off until the beginning stages of March when they play in the ACCHL.
Yeah, big tournament for them.
Yeah.
Hey, this is you got to think. You got to find a way to get over the hump. Like, and I mean, this is probably one of your more talented teams than we've seen in years past.
Yep.
So, like, you're thinking, yep, they're going to be able to find a way to do it this year, but you never know, right? Like, there's some good High Point's better this year. Coastal's always tough. Like, yeah, I think this is going to be also one of the more deeper ACCHL where it could be up for grabs.
Yeah, I think they had a great way to go into the ACCHL, though. I mean, this past weekend, I read off these 72 shots in Game 1. Like, that's pretty unreal. I think it was 61 in Game 2. And then their power play 4 for 10, night 1. So really got things going offensively and top to bottom. I mean, they've been solid all year with, production from all your lines. And that's what makes teams great in the national tournament. So yeah, looking at it like you said, Pat, definitely one of the more talented D3 teams we've seen in a good while. I really think it could be their year, but
Yeah.
Man, yeah, it's
Andy Corey calling it.
that's right. We'll see. Like, it's funny too because when you said those shots in 30 seconds, App State scored.
Yes, right?
And I was like, oh, I was like,
yeah, and it was
okay.
right after like the senior night ceremony.
Yeah.
Everyone's feeling good.
Right.
And they come out, yeah.
Yeah.
Little sleepwalk for the first
That's
day.
right. Yeah.
We're awake
Oh,
now,
that's
yeah.
a jolt that will get
Yeah.
us up.
All right, we'll keep our eyes on the ACCHL tournament coming up here and see what happens with Coastal Carolina. Seems like it's always those two. All right, Women's Division 2 preparing for the DVCHC playoffs. We'll face Maryland in the first round, who Liberty beat earlier this year 4-1 and then 2-1 in overtime.
Yeah, this will be big tournament, I think, for Liberty because you're trying to at least win that first game.
Yeah.
And then you have the fortune that theoretically the semifinals should be a makeup of the top 4 teams in the Southeast. So, yeah, I mean, this is a big opportunity for Liberty to, one, clinch their spot at going to nationals and then maybe even, two, make some noise at this tournament to build confidence going into the national tournament.
And so now, if will these weekend games count towards the women's D2 rankings for nationals?
I believe so, yes.
And-
kind of like how for the women's, these games at playoffs count for.
Will
I
count.
believe, yeah.
Okay. And so they're playing top teams within their conference here. And is there an auto bid situation for winning your conference as well?
There are some, and I can't remember how the
It's like
shakeup
only a few
works.
of them auto bids, right?
Yeah, and I can't remember how the shakeup works. Like, I feel like the DVCHC has an auto bid if
Okay.
you win the conference tournament, but I can't remember because, like, in years past, it's also changed. Like, this conference gets it this year, but they won't have it next year, right? So,
Yeah.
but I feel like the DVCHC has one this year.
Okay. Yeah, and I just want to lay it all out there, get all the rules in order and in place, so that
know,
in
right?
2 weeks' time we're not saying like again, and then again.
Yeah,
You can
I-
still say it.
Yeah.
I do believe, like, if they win that first game versus Maryland and you're close in the semifinals game, like, if you don't come away with the win, like,
Yeah.
it should lock them.
Should be enough.
Yeah.
All right. We'll keep keep our eyes on it. It's going to be wild to watch. Well, fun week of Rock the Rink. Thanks to Ben Hughes for coming on. We'll be back next week again breaking down men versus Ohio and continuing to set up nationals that are quickly approaching. Any other fun things?
Yeah, we're gonna try. Like you said, we've had some requests. We won't say who the requests are fully, but we're gonna try to have some more guests building up towards the national tournament.
All right, sounds good. All right, this has been Rock the Rink. We'll see you next week.